Hey guys, welcome to Furnace Gaming. Alrighty, in this video, I'm going to be going over every single legend's backstory and abilities to see which legend is fit for you. Okay, without further ado, let's do it! Okay, the first legend we're going over is Caustic. Now, Caustic kind of makes everyone go, what the? Let me tell you why. Caustic, aka Alexander Knox, is a scientist. Not just any scientist, a scientist who believes that science is more important than humanity. Therefore, he doesn't care what happens to his test subjects. And also, he's a scientist of gas. Toxic gas. So he wanted to experiment his gas on people. And what better way to do it than joining the Apex Games? Douchebag. So let's go over some of his abilities, shall we? He has this gas trap balloon thing that he can throw down, and it fills up with gas, and then any nearby opponents that get close to it, it automatically releases the gas, causing damage, slow movement, and blindness. So don't get near the trap. His passive ability allows him to actually see through the gas if he manages to pass through it. So he doesn't gain any damage from it, but he can actually see opponents highlighted in red. His ultimate ability is a toxic gas grenade that he can toss down and make a giant gas cloud. And same thing, it causes them to slow down, a little bit of damage, and blindness. So don't get in the gas. So let's move on to the next legend. The next legend we have is Gibraltar, or as the fans like to call him, Gibby. And no, I'm not talking about Gibby! I'm talking about Gibraltar Gibby. Now, so Gibraltar's kind of like the protective warrior type of guy, alright? His parents were part of a search and rescue team which he really respected. It wasn't until he and his boyfriend actually got on a motorcycle and got into an accident, and his father had to come get him and save their lives, and in the process losing his arm, did Gibraltar actually see that this is what he was meant to do. So from that point on, he's been part of the search and rescue team and then joined the Apex Games. So, let's go over his abilities. Gibraltar has this dome shield that he can throw down that he can protect his entire team. And in the process, he can actually revive his teammates faster if they're actually in the dome and downed. He also has this arm shield that he can pull up out of nowhere when he aims. Kind of protects him a little bit, plus the extra shields he might have. Next, he has this airstrike that comes out of the air. He just tosses a little flare and giant missiles or something comes out of an orbital strike. Gibbies are not to be messed with. They're not. Next, let's talk about Mirage. Mirage is the joker, prankster, and narcissistic guy of the group. He loves fame, he loves attention, and he loves himself. So Mirage is actually the youngest of 4. And he was always bullied, therefore he was always trying to make people laugh, trying to make people smile, and that's how he grew to be the guy he is right now. Unfortunately, his older brothers went missing in action in the war. I believe it was the IMC versus the militia, but I may be wrong about that. Now, because of that, him and his mother spent more quality time together, and they actually came up with the holographic technology that you actually see in the game. He learned how to use it in battle, basically just to study it and master the ability of bamboozling, as he uses in the game. Let's go over his abilities. So, Mirage has the classic bamboozle trick, which he launches a hologram into the direction that he's pointing, whether it's running or crouching. He can shoot out a hologram, which people see as him, and it's a trick, it's a prank. It's not real. His passive allows him to actually shoot decoys during the drop, which can be effective, but a lot of people don't mind it. And also, when he gets knocked down, he actually turns invisible, and a hologram is there pretending to die, even though, it's not that effective, but we'll see what happens with the buff. His ultimate ability is he can actually turn completely invisible, and a bunch of holograms just surround him in a circle, so he can just escape without being seen. Bamboozled. Okay, let's talk about Octane. Octane is an adrenaline junkie. His name is Octavio Silva, and he's actually the heir to a pharmaceuticals company that his parents actually owned, where the stim comes from. You know that thing he injects himself with to make him run faster? Yeah, that's his tactical ability. Now, he was bored one day and decided to try to beat the Gauntlet Challenge, which is the challenge seen in Titanfall 2. Now, in the process, he tried to use a grenade to launch himself in the finish line, in the process, blowing up his legs. Both of them. So let's go over some of these abilities, shall we? So, as I said, Octane uses a stim that he can inject himself with to make him actually run faster. The stim naturally causes a little bit of damage to him, but he actually has a filter on the side of his hip that filters his blood, so he constantly has a healing factor. So that's his passive ability. His health slowly regenerates, but very, very slowly. His ultimate ability is he can actually chuck a freaking launch pad out of freaking nowhere. So he throws it and he can actually bounce off and launch and do crazy tricks if you want to. It can be used for a quick escape or it can be used for an offensive move. It's really effective, it's really fun to use, you should try it. Let's move on. Alright, the next legend we have is actually Bangalore. Now, Bangalore is the soldier type character of Apex Legends. Now, she was born into a military family and she has 4 older brothers who actually worked for the IMC, and she did as well. She actually ranked first in the academy of the IMC. Now, if you don't know what the IMC is, they're basically the villains of the entire Respawn Titanfall story. They're basically the bad guys. She's a weapon expert. In the game, she'll actually tell you fun facts about the weapons and what they're capable of doing. If you don't know and you have a Bangalore on your team and she pings a weapon, and she'll actually tell you something about it. She even took a Peacekeeper apart and put it back together in 20 seconds. Blindfolded. Let's get into some of Bangalore's abilities. Her tactical ability is actually a smoke launcher that she has on her shoulder. When shot, 3 canisters separate apart and make a giant cloud of smoke. Enemies are unable to actually see through this, very difficult to get through. Even Bangalore can't see through it herself. She actually gets 2 of those that you can shoot one after the other, so more smoke. Why not? Her passive ability is actually double time. Like a soldier, when she gets shot at, she starts running a lot faster. Helps her to escape heavy fire. Kind of like a soldier. Her ultimate ability is actually very similar to Gibraltar's. She throws down a flare and missiles come out of the sky and actually land to the ground, but they don't actually explode the moment they land. And after a couple of seconds, they actually explode and deals a lot of damage. Next, let's talk about Lifeline. Lifeline is a combat medic. She has always been wanting to help others ever since she was young. She was born into a rich family, however that family caused a lot of problems and she didn't like that, so she kind of separated from her family and she went out to help people as a combat medic. She has a really fun attitude and she loves music. She has drumsticks with her all the time. I mean, why not? Let's take drumsticks to a battlefield. Fun fact, I believe she's the one who helped build Octane's legs after he blew him up. Both of them. She then joined the Apex Games to really prove herself to everyone, basically, that even though she wants to help people, she's still capable of being awesome. So, let's get into some of her abilities. Her tactical ability is that she actually has a health drone that she can deploy to heal herself and her teammates if they actually need it. Her passive ability actually is that when she revives someone, she revives them quickly, but also the drone puts up a shield to guard them in whatever direction she's actually healing from. So bullets do not go through that, grenades do not go through that, but people can find a loophole by tossing it over the shield. However, it's still a really great ability and so much. Her ultimate ability is actually a Lifeline package. It's like a regular care package, however there are no weapons that actually come with it. It's actually things that benefit their health or equipment. So it could be shields, it could be med packs, it could be shield batteries, shield cells, basically anything that can help anybody in the field. They actually added an extra ability to her that she can actually open blue supply bins and you get extra stuff from the bottom. Next, we have Crypto. Crypto is a surveillance hacker. Crypto was a hacker alongside his sister, and they actually found an algorithm to predict the next winner of the Apex Games. However, the people in charge of the Apex game actually figured out that they had this and killed Crypto's sister and framed it on him. And in that process, he had to hide away. He was angry and wanted to get revenge, so he hacked into the system and put himself as a legend. So now he is in the games and hacking his way through the system. Also, he's kind of the reason we have a new map at World's Edge. So thank you, Crypto, for taking out the tower at Kings Canyon. Let's get into some of his abilities. All of his abilities depend on one thing, and that's his drone. His tactical ability is that he can deploy a drone that can be a surveillance camera, basically. You can run around for a really far distance, up, down, left, right. You can control the drone whichever direction you please. And you can spot enemies and highlight them for your teammates to actually see. Now, his passive ability is kind of a couple of things. For starters, his drone can actually open doors, open bins, pick up your friend's banner, and also, if you look on banner posters, it can actually tell you how many squads or how many enemies are actually near that drone. His ultimate ability is actually an EMP that the drone can actually emit. So when the drone is close to enemies, you can automatically use that EMP to rip half of the shields, and automatically they are slowed down. They're still like in shock, unable to move that much. You know, I'm still wondering what's that thing he actually has on his jaw. It goes up to his ear. So far I see no purpose on it. Alrighty, let's move on to the next legend, and that's Watson. Watson is actually a really interesting character because she was always there, and everybody knew about her before she even became a legend. Watson's father was the lead engineer into making the ring around Kings Canyon. Now, she was actually helping her father with that, and she managed to crack the code into making the ring happen. She must have become a legend because of how impressed the Apex people were of her. And so, she's an expert in electricity, entirely. Genius. She's a genius, insanely. She's smarter than me. She's actually so popular around everybody that she's considered the Eye of the Storm. Probably because she created said storm. Alright, let's get into some of those abilities. So her tactical ability is actually electric pylons that she can set up that make an electric fence that anybody passes through it, they actually get shocked, they lose a little bit of shield, and they're actually slowed down and blinded even a little bit. So, very effective. However, it's hard to actually get trapped in those things. Her ultimate ability is that she actually puts down this giant generator thing that she carries on her back, and it basically protects anybody inside from grenades or other ultimate abilities, shooting them down automatically. It doesn't protect from bullets, but it's still effective that way, as well as it charges shields. Just be careful where you put it because it can charge enemy shields as well. So actually putting fences around that generator would help, making her a really effective defensive character. Also, please notice before this video goes on that my hair is insanely crazy since the beginning. Alrighty, the next legend we have is Revenant. So Revenant is a highly skilled assassin. Revenant used to be human, and he was then one of the greatest assassins there was. But then Hammond Robotics actually turned him into a robot and has been programming him to do their bidding. And the thing is, Revenant didn't know that he was a robot. He was actually programmed to see himself as a human. So the entire time he was a robot, he saw himself as a normal human. Every day waking up, shaving his face, doing his thing, getting contracts and killing people. And then one day, during an assassination mission, he actually got a malfunction when he got a piece of glass stuck in his neck, and he was looking at it and he was wondering why he wasn't bleeding. So he took out the piece of glass, and then it finally showed him what he actually was, a robot. And he had a signature on his wrist, or his hand, that said Hammond Robotics. So at that point he was really angry and wanted to get revenge on Hammond Robotics. And the best way he could do that was join the Apex Games, which was at the time sponsored by Hammond Robotics. And in the process, he loves to kill. So killing people in the Apex Games, plus getting revenge on Hammond Robotics, it was a win-win for him. So, good for you, bud. So, let's go over Revenant's abilities. So for starters, he has an ability called Silence. Now this is his tactical ability. Now this ability allows him to throw a little tiny ball that silences the abilities of the opponent. They can't use their tactical, their ultimate, or their passive ability. For 10 to 20 seconds, I believe, they are completely silenced, and they do 10 damage to them. A really useful ability, not bad at all, especially since it got a buff. His passive ability is that he can actually crawl faster and he can actually climb higher than other legends. His ultimate ability is that he can actually summon a death totem. Now what this does is puts him in a shadow mode. Now this shadow mode is kind of like immortality. Like he can go out there and they can shoot at him and his health will go down, but when that health goes down, he actually reappears back at the totem with 50% health and no damage to shields taken. So it's basically like taking a risk and surviving the risk no matter what. It's a pretty useful ability, especially with the buff. The range increased and you can now come back with 50 health instead of 1 HP. It used to be 1 HP, that was insane. No one liked Revenant in the beginning and then now everybody likes him. The next legend we have is Bloodhound. So Bloodhound is a non-binary mystery character that came into Apex Legends. They believe that they are actually the hunter the gods have sent. So they believe in gods very much so, and the All-Father. So not much is known about them, but we do know that they joined the Apex game so they can test their abilities as a hunter. And honestly, my favorite character in Apex Legends. So here are some of their abilities that they have. So for starters, their tactical ability is called Eye of the All-Father. Now what this does is they have a little device on their shoulder that they can activate, and with that they can see opponents' traps through walls with a quick scan. And since the buff, it's now gotten a bigger range, so it's much more effective. The downside is that enemies will see that they have been scanned. So careful where you use it. Their passive ability is that they can actually see footsteps and tracks up to 90 seconds. So you can actually track an enemy if their footsteps were there. You can see if they healed, if they bleed, if they slid, if they jumped, and you'll be able to follow them. Makes you the ultimate hunter. Now their ultimate ability is actually called Beast of the Hunt, and what this does, it turns them into the ultimate hunter. They start running faster, jumping a little bit higher, I believe, for 35 seconds. Everything is gray, black and white, and enemies are highlighted in red, and you can actually see footsteps if they're recent, so you can chase them down. So yeah, that's why Bloodhound is my main. Alrighty, next we have Wraith. Now, Wraith's history is very confusing because of how much dimensional stuff is going on with her. Apparently, she woke up in a lab one day and she started hearing voices in her head. Now, when she started hearing these voices, she thought she was insane. Everybody around her thought she was insane. So they took her to her lab for testing and they did a bunch of tests on her. And eventually, she managed to trust the voices in her head that kept telling her what to do. And this was because the voices were actually her from a different dimension telling her what to do. So that's crazy. Now, her powers are kind of weird. She can actually go through dimensions and time and portals and such. We don't exactly know why she joined the Apex games. Maybe it's to show her skills, to win money, to win fame, but who knows? All we know is that she's an awesome character to use. Let's go over her abilities. So her tactical is actually into the void, which she actually kind of turns invisible and goes into the void for a little bit. But the thing is, she's not invisible exactly. You can actually see a trail following her, so they can see her. The only downside is they can't shoot her. Like, she's completely immortal in that state, and she runs a tad bit faster. Very useful ability for quick escapes. Her passive is actually voices from her head. That means if a bad guy sees her and pings her, she can actually warn her team that, oh, someone's targeting me, and all of a sudden everybody's alert. Her ultimate ability is that she can create a portal from one place to another for your teammates for a quick escape or a quick fight. Who knows? It's on you. So she can open a portal one place and she has to run to another location really quickly to open the portal on that side. So you can just portal. And finally, the last legend that we have is Pathfinder. Now, Pathfinder's story is actually really interesting. We don't know too much, but even then, it's actually very, very interesting. So, Pathfinder is a Marvin unit robot. Marvin robots were actually found around the Titanfall games. They're just there cleaning something, or they're helping moving stuff. You just see them around everywhere in the Titanfall games. Now, Pathfinder is actually really special, because one day he actually woke up in a lab, no idea how he got there, and the thing is, he was actually modified than the regular Marvin units. He woke up with a grapple and a zip line to be a scouting specialist. So, in order for Pathfinder to find his creator, which was his goal, he decided to join the Apex Games so that he can get his creator's attention. Also, he has an incredible sense of humor. Alrighty, let's go over these abilities. So, Pathfinder has a grappling hook on his left hand that he can actually shoot and grapple through a location. It actually has a 10-second cooldown, so he can actually just use it every 10 seconds. It's really useful, helpful to get out of tricky situations, especially in a firefight. His passive is that he can actually use a survey beacon to actually see where the next ring location is going to close. So that's very, very helpful for your team. And finally, his ultimate ability is that he can actually shoot a zipline for your entire team to move. It can be used offensively or to literally leave and make a quick escape. Because trust me, I've gotten out of many situations because of that. Trust me, my best friend is a Pathfinder. So yeah, that's every single legend in Apex Legends so far. Loba is coming out soon, and I will do a video on her, doing a playthrough with her, and then giving you my feedback on her. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, please tell me your favorite legend if you have one. Thank you, and I will see you around.